I just like the control and the freedom. And I think that's what people should strive for.
I want to give a quick shout out to my podcast manager, Abby. If you're in need of help in launching and managing your own show, please reach out to her at productions@abbygwaki.com. I'll put her details in the show notes. She really is the best, and I love her. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Quiet Wealth Podcast. I am your host, Camilla, and I'm super excited to have a guest today. Nancy Chillag is joining me, and she is a good friend of mine. Nancy, welcome to the show.
Oh, it's so good to be here, Camilla.
So Nancy and I met probably maybe 2 years ago. I think it's been 2 years that we've been friends, and we met in a educational group. So both joined a mentoring group where we could learn how to raise money for real estate investments. So we were learning how to teach passive investors how to get involved in group investing. And that's where she and I met. And we were both growing our businesses at the time and just really hit it off. And so, Nancy, would you do us a favor and tell us about your journey from, I don't know, go back as far as you want.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm a retired lawyer. I retired in my early 50s. Prior to that, I was investing in real estate. Back when I graduated from law school, I thought I'd really like to get into real estate as well, start forming a second flow of income. And so I invested in a 5-unit Victorian apartment building in San Francisco with some friends of mine. We had no idea what we were doing. And we made a ton of money in 4 years, and I was hooked and never looked back. And that first building was on 23rd Street in San Francisco. And thus the name of my company now is 23rd Street Investors.
Awesome.
And so from there, we sold the building, we made money. I did a tax deferred exchange into other properties, have had tons of rental properties. I think at one point I had 40 some doors of single family and small multifamily. And I ended up liquidating all of those and went into larger residential properties, large apartment buildings mostly.
Mm-hmm.
So that was sort of my journey. And when I retired 10 years ago from law, I decided that I would concentrate more on investing. And up until then, I was doing it all with my own money. Then I decided to scale and be able to help other people, busy professionals, invest in real estate. And they don't have the time to invest. And so I sort of do the hunting for them and find the projects and bring them on board. And then we're all able to make money. That's pretty much my journey.
That's pretty cool. So it sounds like you started out doing group investing. Most of us start out doing it on our own, like DIY and hoofing it and stuff. And so tell me more about this first investment that you did, this 5-unit, you said, with a couple of friends.
I was at lunch with a friend of mine and we started talking about real estate. And now I'm really going to date myself because we ran out to the kiosk on the street, and that's where they used to have these flyers or newspapers that would advertise properties for sale. There was no MLS or anything like that. And so we were looking through that and we found this 5-unit apartment building that had seller financing. And so we called up and within a week we were under contract, and then we managed it ourselves. We put in tenants, we handled the maintenance, we did the whole thing ourselves without really knowing a whole lot. And it was funny because we needed to come up with $50,000 as a down payment. And my share was $10,000, and I was right out of law school. I didn't have $10,000. And so I actually went to my uncle and borrowed the money, and we wrote up a promissory note, and I paid him interest every single month. And so when we sold, I was able to pay that back, and I had made 5 times that investment in 4 years. It was a great way to start in real estate.
And was this a multifamily property?
It was 5 units in
Okay.
San Francisco. It was
Okay.
a Victorian building and
Mhm.
it was gorgeous. The problem was that if you have 4 units or less in San Francisco, you don't have rent control. So
Mhm.
we had rent control. After 5 years, we decided to sell it, or 4 years, we decided to sell it.
You did those multifamilies. Now, I know you've done a lot of flipping too. So tell us some more about your flipping business.
As I say, I was a lawyer full time, had my own law practice. I was married to a general contractor. So every few years, we would find a house and we would flip it. And it was so much fun. Some of them we wouldn't flip, we would keep them as rentals. That's how we collected all of our rental properties. When I retired, I was no longer married, but I had had such fun flipping. I decided that I was going to continue with that and found a contractor that I work with and decided to go that route.
And you're flipping in California, right?
Correct.
Now, a lot of people say it's really hard to invest in California. So what do you say about it?
Well, for flipping houses, I don't really consider that investing because
It's a
I'm
job.
buying them and I'm getting rid of them in a few months. For long-term holds, I used to have a lot of properties in California and I liquidated all of them. I will not invest long-term in California. First of all, it doesn't pencil. In other words, you can't get the rents to cover the mortgage because the properties are so expensive. And then rent control, the rules are just not good for getting tenants out. And then, it's just not a landlord friendly state. So you have a problem tenant, it could take you 8 to 10 months to get rid of them. And there are just too many other places that don't have those problems and where the prices are lower. And so it makes more sense to invest. I love living here, but I don't want to invest here.
Got it. Got it. I like how you designated that flipping is not investing. I think a lot of people think it is investing, but you have to consider the whole concept of active income versus passive income. So there's active income, which is your job. The work you're doing every day to bring money in is the job, and that is active income. So flipping is not a passive type of investment. Flipping is actually a business. It's a business that you do, and you got to run the numbers and you got to get good at it. There's lots of processes involved. It's not something you can do haphazardly. And so you take your active income. So you have your business that is generating active income for you. And then, from what I understand, you are turning it into passive income. So tell me, how are you doing that?
Well, what you can do if you're flipping houses is you could buy a house. And I know a lot of people that will buy 3 or 4 houses, let's say. They'll fix all of them up. They'll sell 2 of them. And then the profits from that sale, they'll use to pay off the mortgage on the other 2. And then they'll keep those other 2 as long-term rentals. So that is, a great strategy for developing passive income. Or, you can just take the money from the flips and then you can put it into a totally passive investment as a limited partner, and you just invest in various projects, large projects.
And so then you're turning that active income into passive income. And I think the goal really, if you've seen Gary Keller has a really great graphic that shows how you've got to just turn that active income into passive income. And then ideally you live off the passive income and then you no longer need the active income coming in. And so it's this whole transformation of income streams and sources and how to really get there. Because when you start out, you've got to work. You got to work hard. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You just got to put in the work and generate the active income. And then you make really intentional choices to turn that into passive income.
There's an author that wrote a book. His last name's Schwab. I'm blanking on his first name. He wrote a book, One House a Year. And he basically has this formula where if you buy a house and you turn it into a rental and you do that once a year, in 10 years, you can retire because you'll have 10 houses that are producing rental income for you.
And it's exactly the book that made the most sense to me when I first started my investing journey. And so I think it's called One House at a Time, or
One house at a time.
Something like that. That's the strategy that my husband and I followed when we were young. We're like, okay, we'll just buy one a year. But of course, life happens and we weren't able to get one a year when sometimes it was one every 2 years or, things like that. But it's a really interesting strategy and wealth building tool. And it takes time, right? I think a lot of people get impatient. I know I'm impatient sometimes about how long it takes to build true wealth, right? We're not looking to get rich. We want to build wealth. And so building that foundation really takes a lot of time and energy and effort. You've already built the foundation. And so, what are you doing today? We've talked about kind of wealth building, and let's talk about the business building. So, right now, you have a business. It's called 23rd Street Investors. Tell us more about that business and why you launched it and what it's doing today.
Well, that business is a syndication business, which means we pool investor money to find or to be able to purchase larger investments like large multifamily housing, apartment buildings. And so that's what that business is about.
And so that business is separate from your flipping business, yes?
Correct.
How many businesses do you have?
Just 2 right now.
Okay. 2 right now. All right. Okay. You have your flipping business and then you also have 23rd Street Investors. So let's just talk about business in general and specifically for women owning businesses, because this is something that I teach here on the podcast, is that it's important for you to have a business. So why would you say that it's important for people to own their own business?
The first business I owned was my law practice. And when I was a lawyer working for a large law firm, first of all, I was working for somebody else. I didn't have control over my hours and I had small kids. And so I really wanted that time freedom. So I started my own practice, was able to be there for all their school events and field trips and those kind of things. And, I could leave work early and spend time with them because I had staff that would handle things for me. So what I loved was being able to have the time freedom. And then you also have more control over your income, because if you're working for someone else, you're basically working per hour pay, or even if you're on salary, you still have a restricted amount of money. And third, if you're working for somebody else, you could get a pink slip any day. And so you're working on Monday and on Tuesday, you don't have a job. And if you have your own company, you might have downtimes, or let me put it this way, you will have downtimes, but you're able to plan, you're able to adjust. You're never going from X amount of dollars to zero. I just like the control and the freedom. And I think that's what people should strive for. Unfortunately, our education system teaches people that you should go out, you should get a good job, you should work for 40 years, and then you retire and collect Social Security. It's like, really? They just don't teach you how to be your own boss and how to invest and how to develop multiple streams of income.
So what advice would you give a woman who's considering launching her own business?
I think it depends on what you do. If you're an astronaut, chances are you're not going to have your own business. But if, you have something, or if you have skills in an area where you could have your own business, then working for somebody else to develop those skills is something that you should consider, with the end goal in mind to start your own business. So you don't necessarily care if you're getting the highest salary while you're working for somebody else. What you're more interested in is how much will they teach you so you can go off on your own. And that's exactly what I did with law. I worked for law firms for a number of years. Then when I went out on my own, I had all these skills and tools that I could use to develop my own practice. So that would probably be number one. Number two, I would suggest that you really read a lot of books on how to start a business, because you just don't start it. There's accounting, there's legal. Are you going to be a corporation or a sole proprietorship? Are you going to rent space? Are you going to work from home? There are tons of questions that you should really work out before you just quit your job and decide to do your own business.
There's definitely a lot of things to consider and to learn. And, for me, it was kind of a learn as I go. Like, we're going to do this thing, we'll figure it out. And I think another piece of advice would be to ask a lot of questions. Surround yourself with people who are doing what you want to do and get to know them. And chances are they will be more than happy to share how they are doing it or share what kind of corporation entity or structure they are and how they're doing their business. And so just find other people who are building businesses that you want to build and be their best friend.
Oh, mentors are great. I mean, the group that we belong to together, same thing. They were teaching us how to do what they do. So instead of just trying to figure it out on your own, being able to find a mentor, find a group that you can belong to that will teach you those tricks and sort of expedite your learning curve is something that everybody should consider when they're starting a business.
And do you think that people should look for free mentors or paid mentors?
My theory is you get what you pay for. So it depends on what you mean by free. There are some mentors out there. For example, let's just look in the house flipping business. There are people that will partner with you and teach you everything that they know, but they'll take a percentage of the money you make on the various deals. So it's not going to cost you money up front, but it's going to cost you money over time. But if you are learning how to buy a house and how to flip it, and you're making money on that, then giving up some of that percentage is worth it, because otherwise you would have zero. Or you wouldn't have anything for a couple years down the road while you figure out all the details. So that's one way to look at it. If you're going to pay for a mentor, I would strongly suggest that you research them, that you compare and contrast multiple mentors and figure out why that one is better than another. What fits your game plan?
Yeah. And I think so when I was, going to launch Steady Stream Investments, I was looking around for a mentor and evaluating the different ones that were out there. Of course, there were big ones that you could join that were like $50,000 to join that one. And then there were small ones that were just starting out that charged maybe $2,000 to join. And so it's a question of what exactly do you need? And for me, I figured out that there was one specific skill that I really wanted to learn. And the other skills I would rather partner with people, right? Lean on other people. And that skill was raising capital and educating investors and, helping with the money piece of it. And so that was the skill that I was looking for. So the gurus who were teaching the full spectrum of the whole, investing business and in syndication, I didn't need them because I didn't want the full spectrum, right? I wanted to be highly skilled in one area. And so that's where I found, and our mentors, we mentored with Good Egg Investments. So Annie Dickerson, shout out to Annie Dickerson and Julie Lamb. They've built an amazing business. So we mentored with, and they taught us a lot of amazing things. Also, I was looking very specifically for other women in this business because there's very few of us in this business. And so I was looking for a mentor in the space who could come at it from a different angle, than perhaps a different mentor could. And that's really what I was looking for in what I found. And I really enjoyed it. And they weren't cheap, right? They're not cheap. They weren't $50,000, but they also weren't $2,000. They were somewhere in the middle there, but worth every penny. And so I think about mentors, in a couple of ways. So one is a mentor is someone who's hired. So for me, that's a hired paid professional. And I seek out the person who is an expert in their industry and I will pay them. And then I think of my business friends, right? Like you and I are business friends. I can call you at any time and I'd be like, hey, Nancy, I got this issue. Can you talk to me about it? And we'll just chit chat about it and we'll just, run ideas off of each other. And we did that just last week. We were chatting. And so there are your business friends who are still doing things that you want to do, but they are also growing and learning. And maybe they're on either the same level or maybe one level above you. You need business friends like that. Pay the mentor who's 10 steps ahead of you, who can pull you up quicker, and then surround yourself with a bunch of business buddies that you can chat with. at
I
any
think
moment.
that's excellent advice. Another thing that I look at is how much am I paying the mentor and how quickly would I be able to recoup that payment through the business? If you're able to do that fairly quickly, it's probably worth it.
Agreed. All right. So we talked a lot about wealth building. We talked a lot about business building. So let's talk about the third pillar of quiet wealth, which is leaving a legacy. So how are you leaving a legacy, or what are you working on in terms of legacy building?
Well, I'm assuming that you're referring to what I'm going to leave to my kids through legacy
It could be
building.
anything, right? So I think some people define it as what they leave to their family when they pass. Other people define it as what they are doing currently right now to impact others and influence others. Some women don't have children to leave stuff to, and so they're looking at it in a different lens. So how do you look at it?
For me, it's being able to educate my kids on how to develop passive income and then, being able to generate passive income assets that I can pass on to them when I'm gone and be able to help them start their journey to passive income.
And how many kids do you have?
I have 3 daughters, they're grown, and I have 3 grandkids.
Oh, so fun. So
Yeah,
fun.
they are.
So how are you teaching? You said you want to educate your daughters on how to build passive income. How are you doing that?
I think the best way to teach is through example. If they can just see, number one, what I'm doing, number two, how excited I am, and then just sort of pass on some of the tricks and tips of the trade and hopefully spark an interest in them. None of them wanted to be lawyers.
Totally fine. Totally fine.
Yes,
Me
which
either.
is totally fine. But just trying to show them the benefits of real estate so that at some point they can do it on their own. And my one daughter did. Her and her husband bought a duplex and fixed it up and rented it out for a while. And then they sold it and made quite a bit of money. And if they weren't so busy with the 3 grandkids, they would probably rinse and repeat.
Wait, the one daughter has all 3 of the grandkids?
Yes.
Okay.
3 under
Okay.
3.
Oh, bless her.
It's crazy.
That's
But
a
that's
lot.
what I did. I had 3 under 3.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, but you kept going after 3.
I did. I got to 5. And then I quit after 5. 5 was good. But I had 3 daughters and I was like, I need a son. I need a boy. And so I got my boy as number 4. And then I was like, oh, he needs a brother. And then we got another daughter. And we're like, nope, he does not need a brother. He's okay. Yeah, he's great. I love my son a lot. He's 16 now and a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, you
Doing
got
all
a
sorts of
few years to wait until they're the age of mine.
We do. Well, Nancy, thank you so much for joining us today. If the listener wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do so?
Well, my website is 23rdstreetinvestors.com, and you can email me at nancy@23rdstreetinvestors.com. That's the best way.
All right. We'll be sure to post that in the show notes. So thank you so
Great.
much for joining to our listener today. Thank you as well for being here at Quiet Wealth. Remember, please share this episode. We need to share the education so we can share the wealth. Thanks so much for joining. Bye for now.